Let's get together to co-create a breakthrough for freedom of energy, sustenance, healing, and regeneration of the human vessel. Welcome to FESIG, the Free Energy Special Interest Group, where science meets spirituality in the quest for truth and knowledge to free humanity and transform this planet into a paradise.
Hi everyone. It's so good to have all here. Welcome. I'm Crystal, the founder of FESIG, and I have here with me Pontus, who's the head, the founder of the R&D team of FESIG, and we have the chairperson of the R&D team of FESIG, Dr. Fred Brazil, who co-chairs with me almost every meeting, apart from James, who's not here. James is supporting Trump on Trump's rally at Washington, D.C. So everyone, welcome. It's so good that we have quite a lot in attendance today, that you choose to be with us today. And we have a wonderful FESIG brothers, Marty, John Mendez with us today as well. Of course, the two speakers are here present as well. We have a lot of good people here and FESIG supporters as well. Welcome, everyone. I just wanted to say that FESIG is a platform where science meets spirituality, and we do this from the purity of our hearts, okay? And we don't have any funding from anyone. We don't take money from anyone. We do have a trickle of donations that comes in to help us with the very basic fees for the website, webmaster, things like that. And even the R&D team doesn't have any donations to go by. Everything is through their own pockets. Pontus and team, Fres and everyone there in the R&D team have been using their own money to pay for tools and equipment and all that to develop our own brand of free energy. But as you all know, we do our best. And the free energy device that we're developing, the prototype, of course, it's good. It's we're progressing a lot, but we can't do anything unless we have the funding to do a proper pilot project so that we can test, we can beta test and test and test, so that we know that it is safe for people before we can then set up structures and facilitation to come out to open source. When things are safe for us, the developers as well, then we are able to open source as per defined in our website of our divine mission. Okay, so know that in your hearts of hearts, we are doing our best. And meanwhile, while all this is going on, all this preparation, we are delivering our mission anyway by bringing some of the best and most brilliant minds in the world together on this platform where science meets spirituality. We have one speaker of science and the other speaker of spirit, and sometimes we have speakers of both. And more often than not, we got both in the one speaker anyway. So because this is a platform that is unique in the sense that we are in search of transformation technologies, futuristic science, science that is of the eternal type, that doesn't die, and that is in the far reaches of the frontiers of probably the galaxy or even the universe. If we can, we will search for them. And so we do have people who have the knowledge and who are so willing and so happy to share through this platform. So it is not like we had been slandered recently. Well, it seems like, okay, I mean, who is immune to it? Who's doing the work is immune to it anyway. So it just shows that we're doing the right thing. But I just wanted to clarify here, we are not a cult. We are not a religious group. We are not preaching anything to anyone. We are a platform that shares everything that we are researching and finding useful for everyone out there who cares to know, to learn, to develop develop what they want to develop. This is a free energy special interest group. And free energy covers healing as well, the human health and all that, okay? So there you go, that been clarified. I just want you to know that there had been 2 deaths in FESIG, unfortunately, our very beloved brothers of FESIG, Martin Berger, which we did we were really shocked and we really very sad about that. We did a memorial service for him. If you go to our FESIG channel, you'll be able to see. And we also had Patrick Kelly, the famous Patrick Kelly with his 5,000, 6,000 pages ebook about free energy. Oh, we love him dearly. Unfortunately, he has to leave, and it's such a big loss for FESIG. Well, you know, expiry dates, well, we can't, it's unavoidable, isn't it? So there's no blaming anyone. We got blamed for that, unfortunately, by some trolls. I mean, what the heck and how? It's out of context, really. So, okay, so without much ado, I'm going to talk about today's meeting because we had a little delays here and there because apparently our emails had been blocked because of the the trolls. Okay, I'm going to share screen now just to share with you what we have in store for today's meeting. Welcome to the 84th FESIG meeting. Today is 6th of January. And speakers, as we are blessed to have now and again, we have in the first session Dr. Whodini, William Alek, who presented his Auroratek at the 29th and 39th FESIG meetings in February and March of 2017. He will speak again about the link between free energy and anti-gravity and his new development, the AC gravity, anti-gravity field propulsion experiment. We are expecting him to do a bit of a demonstration, Bill. That would be nice if you could. But anyway, you have a wonderful PowerPoint presentation as always, well prepared. We are so looking forward. And the second session will be Gene Decode, who returns again. He spoke in the last meeting. He's returning to continue with updated disclosure intel reports of ET's deep state arrests. Ooh, so exciting. Dumps, deep underground military bases, galactic councils, healing beds, transportation, and free energy technologies. Then after the Q&A, the meeting will then adjourn to the 85th FESIG meeting. That will be on the 3rd of February. Please send that down in the diary, folks. Do come back and join us again. This is a happy platform. It's free for all. There's no membership charge, no subscription, nothing. And it's up to you. If you have extra, you want to pay forward and donate to our cause to keep it going, we'll be so grateful and happy to receive that. All right, so if you want to write to me, write to Crystal at truevisionofpeace.com/FESIG.html. So that's it. So, but I want to share screen again because our emails have been blocked. So I want to show our speakers here presently before what they had missed because I kept sending this out. Possibly some of you could have missed it as well, unfortunately, because of the blocking. Okay, now, oh, sorry. Wow, somebody's sharing screen. Can you please stop sharing, please? Because I would like to share screen myself. Yeah, okay. All right, share. Right, so Bill, Dr. Whodini, this is what I sent out to you, the link for this one. Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year. And May 2021 will be the watershed year of disclosure and truth revelations. A very exciting year, a year of abundance and freedom towards ascension for humanity. Happy New Age of Aquarius from me, Crystal, and the FESIG team. Okay, so Pontus, you want to wish everyone Happy New Year, press?
Yes, please. Happy New Year to all, and good. Yeah, we will have a good year forward us.
And from the
Chris?
FESIG R&D team, we wish you all a very happy new year and prosperous new year around the world. Your floor is yours, Crystal.
That is Dr. Fraser. Thank you very much. So it's time, yeah, to attend the meeting today, and you're all here. I'm so grateful to see all of you. I'm so happy. So, Bill, if you could see, this is what you missed. Okay, you have the links and everything here, which I've sent about 4 or 5 days ago. Yeah. Okay, there you are. Here's your photo and about you and your bio and what you're going to talk about, and your anti-gravity later as well there. And Jean is being announced as well. And Jean, about what you're going to talk about. And then last meeting's reports are all there. It's like a newsletter like, and it's good I'm showing you, because those of you who haven't got this, you can have this for free. We're not charging anything. Just click, go to FESIG's website and click on join us, or go to MailChimp and subscribe, or subscribe in, well, if you subscribe YouTube channel, you won't get this. If you go to FESIG's website, you'll be able to join us and you'll be added to the database. This is Dave Parker of the last meeting report. He's the president of the Free Energy Party, going for, well, a huge, big community there of free energy people. So Jean Decode's report was there as well in this newsletter-like report that goes out to everyone, inviting everyone to attend FESIG's meeting. All the links are there. Our YouTube channel, our Facebook links are there. So that's it. And thank you. Oh, sorry, I gotta stop sharing now. Okay, Bill. Okay, so right. Yes?
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. If you would let me introduce you, that would be great, because people who are not in the scientific technology community may not know you. So I know you're very renowned, but here we go. So our returning speaker, William Alek, who presented his Auroratek at the 29th and 30th FESIG meetings in February and March 2017, will speak about his new development, the AC gravity anti-gravity field propulsion experiment, at our 84th meeting that is now. William, or Bill Alek, aka Dr. Whodini, aka the Wizard of Arizona, AZ, is dedicated to bringing forth advanced and exotic anti-gravity and free energy self-sustaining technologies to the world. William is a Nikola Tesla energy researcher and developer with 25 years experience as an embedded computer hardware and software engineering consultant to companies such as Motorola, Honeywell, General Electric, Bendix, Rockwell International, Mack Trucks, Cummins Diesel, Boeing, etc. He was senior engineer with Boeing, right? He is CEO and president of the Auroratek Incorporated, a company that is, that is pioneering advanced exotic energy technologies and sustainable green holistic community lifestyles, and president of INTALEK Incorporated, specializing in research and development of free energy, anti-gravitational time travel devices and systems. In the past, William talked about how he got started with his amazing work and how one thing leads to another. And he explained the vacuum, the anti-gravitational and magnetic fields, the toroidal fields, and free energy. Visit Auroratek and INTALEK.com for more information. And if you go to FESIG's website, you've got all the links of all the speakers. There is absolute sharing here from this platform, folks. It's a plethora of information. It's all for free for you to explore the furthest frontiers for your own developments. So this is our mission and our labor of love for you. William has done some excellent news and interviews on the Progressive Technology Hour, exploring free energy, gravity, anti-gravity, and time. Most years, He had a booth at the events, extraordinary technology conferences. Right, so now after years of research and development, he's about to step into the role of having an energy solution that could power the future without pollution by harvesting energy from everywhere present, real work of nature or vacuum, as it is referred to in his particular variation. Now, William has written a lot of papers in the academia.edu. So if you would go to our website again, you will see links leading to all his papers that he ever written. And oh, wow, that is so much, volumes and volumes of it. So there you go. Now, please help me welcome Dr. Whodini, William Alek. Thank you, William.
Welcome.
Please take over the microphone.
Well, thank you, Crystal, and thank you for the invitation here to return back to the Free Energy Group.
Oh, we
So
love
I'm very
it.
happy to give a presentation today. And I just want to mention that Auroratek.us has been acquired by ISA Industries. And you can go to their website, isaindustries.com.
Thank you.
Okay. And so all our IP that we developed over the years is, has been transferred over to ISA Industries. And that's going to be a mega corporation. So we're going to be developing these free energy technologies as well as anti-gravity technologies. And that's what I want to present today, is the link between free energy and anti-gravity. And of course, this was a subject that Tom Bearden spoke about a number of years ago, linking free energy with anti-gravity, especially through a device called the Floyd Sweet device, which is a very fascinating device. I've been researching it for a number of years. I recently filed a provisional patent on the last day, December 31st of 2020, going over the details of how this technology works. And I know Tom Bearden spoke about it back in the 1990s, but when 2000 hit here, he never really spoke about it again, except maybe around, at the Psychotronics conference is when he last spoke about what's called phase conjugate mirrors. And that, of course, you find phase conjugation occurring with the Floyd Sweet device, with Stanley Meyer's water car. His technology was also a phase conjugate mirror, in addition to Nikola Tesla's magnifying transmitter. That was also a phase conjugate mirror. And so what I did is I wrote up a provisional patent detailing our technology, which was filed, as I mentioned before here on the 31st, that details, what this phase conjugation, how it occurs and how to extract free energy from this type of device, because they always test over unity. When you hook up your meters, your voltage and current meters to this device, and the device that I'm using here is called the split flux transformer, and you'll find it over there at isaindustries.com. When you hook up your voltages and current meters to this device, you'll discover that it's over unity. And so what I mean by that is that there's more power coming out than what's coming in. And it's quite a trick. It's quite an interesting trick. Tom Bearden went into some detail about this, but not a whole lot, because to get the free energy part of all this, it has to resonate. which means there has to be a capacitor added to this technology in order to get it to resonate. And so that's where you see the over unity component to this. And of course, Tom, he spoke about anti-gravity, as well. So today I want to, expand on this, the link, so between free energy and anti-gravity. And so that's what I'll present here. Okay, so you all should be seeing the PowerPoint presentation here. Okay, this is the first screen. Can you see this screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Smarty. Oh, smart.
Okay.
Sorry, Bill. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, let's go to the second screen here. Okay, now a few weeks ago, Tim Ventura from the American Anti-Gravity Group kind of assembled a group of people together. And he brought on this Mark McCandlish, who spoke about a number of years ago, what's called the Alien Replica Vehicle, or an ARV, and they called it the Flux Liner. And this was a machine, I believe it was built back in the 60s or 70s, perhaps maybe back in the 60s. And he was hired, I believe it's by Lockheed, to do some illustrations on this machine. And it's an anti-gravity system. And so Mark, he put together these illustrations detailing what this ARV is. And so that when I looked at it a few weeks ago with this, and you'll find this in Google. If you Google in the search engines, ARV or Alien Replica Vehicle, Flux Liner, and Mark McCandlish, okay, these illustrations will come up.
Yes, we did have Mark McCandlish speak at FESIG, Bill. Yeah, we did.
Oh, you did have them on?
Yes, yes. It's in our channel. Yeah, folks, if you want to get more details of that, you can go to our channel and you see Mark McCandlish's PowerPoint presentation as well. Thanks. Thanks, Bill. Go on.
Okay, now, when I looked at this, I didn't really see anything that caught my eye on anything that's anti-gravitational. Because when you look at this illustration here, the center column here is a large Tesla coil. And then below that, you have this bank of capacitors, on the base of the craft. And then you also have these, what look like cylinders around the craft. So I came to the conclusion that the cylinders were essentially a fuel cell power system, okay, that they're using hydrogen and oxygen and a fuel cell type of arrangement here to power the craft. Now, what I thought was interesting about this illustration here is that the center column has a large Tesla coil in it. The primary coil is shown here as the electromagnetic coil around the center of the craft, shown in red. And then the green portion here is a large capacitor bank. So what's going on here is that they're using electromagnetic flux, okay, produced by very high voltage from the Tesla coil. And they're running this as a tuned circuit, okay, with these plates of capacitors shown in green, okay, to kind of like lower the frequency of this system, perhaps to raise the Q value of this oscillator. So they're using electromagnetic flux, a very high voltage produced by this Tesla coil, and it's running as a tuned circuit. But even then, when I'm looking at this, there really isn't, well, how does this thing get off the ground? Okay, so then let's look at the next slide here. Okay, this is Mark. He was contracted by Lockheed to do these illustrations. Okay, so in this frame, it shows that whether it's Lockheed or some other company built 3 working models of this ARV. And according to Mark, they range in 3 different sizes. And this shows a hangar with the 3 ARVs located within. Okay, now, how does this thing get off the ground? Okay. Well, according to Mark, in this particular illustration, the center column shows a spiral column of what appears to be some sort of either like a hardened glass or maybe a PVC material. I'm not really sure, but it contains mercury. Okay. Mark mentioned a few weeks ago in this lecture given by conducted by Tim Ventura. Mark was the guest on that show. And so he mentioned that the center column here is filled with mercury. And so I kind of said, aha, okay, we have the smoking gun here. Because what I found out was critical, okay, using this, when I did this AC anti-gravity, I thought maybe that the asymmetry of using a Tesla coil with a very large base of an electrode would kind of produce an anti-gravitational effect. And I just discovered that the effect was very, very tiny, okay? That I came to the conclusion that there's something else going on here, okay, to cause a much larger scale anti-gravity effect. And so when I spoke with Mark on this Tim Ventura show here, it turns out that you need to use mercury. So the question is, well, why would mercury cause an anti-gravitational effect? And that I thought was the most interesting part of this vehicle. Because then we'll go to the next slide here. Okay, so why mercury? Well, back around 2001, this diagram was posted on Stefan Hartmann's website. And back then, the Yahoo e-groups were very popular research websites. It's like every other week, an e-group was popping up where someone was investigating something or maybe posting it on an existing e-group. You know, maybe some free energy e-group. And someone had posted this picture or this diagram that shows a fluorescent tube. Now, the tube is excited by a transformer that's kind of wired backwards here and also operating as a flyback transformer in a flyback configuration here. So this diagram here shows a fluorescent tube, a diode, and a battery, and it shows like a little reed switch running as a vibrator, turning current on and off into a step-up transformer, okay? So then I started looking into this, into a little greater detail. And so when you look up mercury, you know, on Wikipedia, it says that when you pass a current through a mercury vapor, for example, which is what you find in a fluorescent tube, that conduction exhibits a negative resistance effect, or that's what we call it, a negative resistance. But it really is a negative resistance. It's going to be something else, which I'm going to go into a little detail later on here. Okay, but anyway, you get this avalanche effect that occurs with current flowing through a fluorescent tube, and it's conducting through this medium of mercury vapor, okay? And so this avalanche effect occurs, and what you get is excess energy from this type of configuration, okay? Excess energy from this. So let's take a little closer look at this. Okay, so what we have, see, whenever we see excess energy coming from this, my analysis is that we're really not dealing with negative resistance, because that was designed, see, negative resistance was designed as a look over here, but don't look over in this direction, which is what's really going on. And what's really going on here is a negative energy effect. So negative resistance is a way of looking at this without researching negative energy, because that's what's really behind free energy and anti-gravity technology, is negative energy. And so what's really going on in that tube is a negative energy effect. We call that quantum tunneling, the quantum tunneling effect, because what it does is it affects the electron and what the electron is doing in that circuit. And so in the quantum tunneling, which I'll get into a little more detail here in the next few slides, is what's really happening with this device. And so what we're doing is a mass modification of the electron to get it to flow faster, to get this avalanche effect going on in these circuits. And so that's what we see in, this also occurs in these, the phase conjugation process as well, okay? That ties back to the Floyd-Sweet device, to Stanley Myers, to what Tesla was doing with this magnifying transmitter. There's very similar effects going on here. But what we're doing is doing a mass modification of the electron. And what we do is that we call this a torsion effect, okay? And so let's go to the next slide here. Okay, so when we look at the classical model of physics, we see that electrons are essentially pulled when you apply an electric force to an electron. Essentially, it pulls on that electron in the circuit, okay? But then quantum tunneling, the quantum tunneling effect, which is what I also cover in electric circuits as well, is that there's another force acting on an electron. And that other force is what causes this quantum tunneling effect to occur. And we see this phenomena also occurring in semiconductors, especially in gallium arsenide, with devices called tunnel diodes. You know, the same type of phenomena occurs. And it's actually a speeding up that occurs in the electric circuits when the electrons fall in this negative energy range is where the electrons actually, they speed up. Why do they speed up? Because we're changing the mass of that electron. We're decreasing that mass. And so you have the same electric force acting on that electron, which is going to speed up that electron in that circuit. So to me, this is what explains the quantum tunneling phenomena, is a speeding up action by changing the mass of these electrons. Okay, so next slide. And so this is what we're looking at here with the electron itself, is that we're applying another force to this electron. And this external force is what causes the theta of that electron to change, which means that the electron rotates or curls into the Dirac sea of negative energy, and we call this the quantum tunneling effect. And this is, you know, I'm presenting a very simplified model, okay, of what's actually going on with these electrons. So the next slide, and I kind of gave it a name. What is torsion? What are we doing with this electron? We're causing it to rotate. And so I kind of invented this, what I call Alek's law. And it modifies E equals mc squared. And so what they discovered in particle accelerators is that the mass of, whether you're accelerating electrons or protons or whatever in your particle accelerator, they discovered that the mass doesn't change at all according to speed. But the energy of that proton or that electron does change, okay? So what's going on here? Well, we're modifying the angle of the electron. We're causing it to rotate from our real 3D space into this negative energy realm. Now, a lot of physicists like to think that, well, negative energy is part of our positive energy universe. And I'm saying, no, it isn't. No, it isn't at all. Negative energy is in another universe, another realm. And what we do in our technology here is that when we start to tap into this negative energy, what we're seeing here is not negative energy itself. You can't measure it with any of our devices, but we can see the effect of it. We can see the effect of negative energy acting on the electron. So what's happening here is that the electron, as it rotates, as we get it to rotate, it can pass through imaginary 3D space, which is at a phase angle of 90 degrees. So that we call that imaginary 3D space. And then as the electron continues to rotate with a theta of 180 degrees, that's where the electron vanishes from our positive energy universe and then manifests into this negative energy universe. Okay, next slide. Okay, what I have here is a little demonstration of what I'm talking about. And so I'm going to turn off sharing. I'm going to stop share. Okay, and I'm going to switch to this little demo here. And so what we have in this demo is a coordinate system, okay, of X, Y, and Z. And now we say that, let's say that this axis here, okay, is now our positive universe of 3 dimensions. So we say we have 3 dimensions here. At 90 degrees, we have 3 dimensions here. And at another 90 degrees, we have 3 dimensions here. And so what we do with our technology is that we take the electron like this, which is represented as positive energy, okay, in our positive energy universe of 3 dimensions. And we apply this other force, okay, that I spoke about earlier, to get this electron to quantum tunnel and its mass to vanish, okay? But the mass really isn't vanishing. It's just moving into another dimension. So that when we apply this force.
It's 11:11, everybody make a wish. I got that to do, and then I got the show to do.
Gabriel, could you please mute yourself? Sorry, Bill, carry on.
Okay, so we have, are we okay?
Yes, go on.
Okay, so in our positive energy universe here, when we apply this force to this electron, we get this electron to rotate. And as it rotates, the real mass of the electron starts to decrease. And so that's what we see in our technology. And this is why the quantum tunneling effect, okay, as we apply electric force to this electron, it'll start to speed up in the circuit, okay? And this is why tunnel diodes, for example, they can oscillate. There's a parasitic oscillation in tunnel diodes that can be in the gigahertz range, okay? And so the explanation for that is that we're causing this mass to rotate, okay, into another dimension by applying this extra force to the electron until it begins to manifest as negative energy, a negative mass, which is what was predicted by Paul Dirac in his Dirac equation, is that you can have positive mass, positive energy, as well as negative mass, negative energy systems as well. And so that's what we're working with these free energy devices and anti-gravity, is that we want to work with particles that are now manifesting in this negative energy region, which means that when you go and measure this, you see that there's no power at all, okay, to this. There's no mass, there's no positive mass. And that's what we see in our technology here. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. Okay, so we're back to the slideshow here. And, oh, another thing that I want to show you is a demonstration of what I'm talking about here, okay, with rotational inertia. And so that's with these gyroscopes. So I want to show people rotational inertia and how you can cancel rotational inertia, okay? And that's another effect, okay, that occurs with anti-gravitational systems as well. So let's stop the share here. Okay, this is a gyroscope that I have. And so when you rev up this gyroscope, when you try to change the plane is where you feel a resistance. And what I'm saying is that the mass of the electron is correlated to its rotational velocity as a vortex of electromagnetic energy. And so that when you try to change this is where it creates, the particle creates a mass effect. And I'm correlating rotation of the electron to the mass of the electron, okay? And so that when we take two of those gyroscopes and we epoxy them together, like what I have here, and then we go and rev this up as well, what this will do is cancel the rotational inertia effect, okay? There's no longer that force of mass, okay? What I call the vortex creating the mass of the electron, the mass vanishes, okay? And that's a key component with developing these free energy and anti-gravitational technologies, is that the inertial component is canceled, okay, with this. Okay, so that's the demo using counter-rotating gyros that cancel out rotational inertia. And so let's go back to the presentation here. Okay, so you should be seeing the presentation. Let's go to the next slide here. The tunnel diode effect. Now what's going on with the tunnel diode effect is that when it was written up back in the 1950s, he said, well, this is just negative resistance, okay, that's occurring in the circuit here. But that's all smoke and mirrors. And it's smoke and mirrors because they didn't want to look at the real effect here, which is really negative energy, which is occurring with the electron flow, okay? And so what we know about this tunnel diode effect is that the electron flow, and what you see here is this red region, okay? And the red region here, which is your negative resistance area, or what they call negative resistance, is actually a negative energy region, which means that the electrons are changing their nature, okay, and speeding up in the flow of electricity through this circuit. And so we're saying that another force is acting on an electron to create the quantum tunneling effect. Okay, so the next slide here, I'm saying that electron spin is actually electron mass. Because back in the 1920s, when they went and calculated what the moment of inertia of the electron was, it was when you go and figure out what the rotational speed of that electron is, it spins at a phenomenal rate, way beyond the speed of light. And when they discovered this, you know, and I'm talking about Heisenberg, Oppenheimer, Einstein, you know, back in the 1920s is when they looked at this and they said that, you know, this is nuts. This is crazy. How can the electron be spinning at that phenomenal rate? So they literally threw it away, okay, the numbers that they got. So what we're left with is just the angular momentum of the electron, which they correlate to Planck's constant. And so they threw out basically the baby with the bathwater here, because this is what would have gave us the Jetson age. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. When you look at the moment, the actual moment of inertia of the electron, when you plug in all the numbers, and they come out all correct. The numbers come out correct when you do these calculations into field calculations as well. The electron is really spinning at those kind of speeds at its radius, okay, at the electron radius. And so that's what we see. When you look at the right side of this diagram here, we basically have two virtual particles that can exist in the vacuum. And the electron-positron pairs, they essentially say, see, the standard model of physics says that they believe in the creation and annihilation of what happens when you put an electron and a positron together, is that they basically annihilate. And what I'm saying is that annihilation never occurs. It's one of these other directions in physics. And what it does is that it forms a virtual particle that you can use as a virtual particle flux. Okay, that these electron-positron pairs still exist. But here's the catch. When you look at Cooper pairs and electron-positron pairs, is that they have no mass. Okay, Cooper pairs, for example, in superconductors, essentially have no mass. And this is why you have zero resistance in your superconducting material, is that these pairs are moving without any mass associated with it. So there's a mass cancellation effect occurring when you form these Cooper pairs, as well as electron-positron pairs, okay? And so when you have no mass, in this system. Then, well, we go to the next slide here, because we know that Tom Bearden, he's really into the scalar thing. Okay, back in the 90s, the 2000s, all he really talked about was scalar energy. And I often wondered, what the heck is this guy talking about? Well, here's the thing, is that when we keep the moment of inertia of the electron, we have the correct equation for that electron. The moment of inertia equals 2 times the mass of the electron, okay, times the square of this radius. Now, the whole catch behind this technology is that we're dealing with what I call the origin of the speed of light. And the origin of speed of light occurs at a certain distance from the electron, from the radius of the electron out to about 5 radiuses beyond the electron is where I came up with the origin of the speed of light, because that's where the velocity of the electron is. It's spinning. It's made up of this subquantum electromagnetic plenum that creates the electron. And at this radius, it's spinning at this phenomenal speed that the so-called experts back in the 20s there threw away. They threw this away and gave us a quantum number that we call spin, okay, to cover up what's really going on with this electron. So at this distance from the electron at about 5 radiuses out is where this vortex slows down enough at this certain critical speed that we call the speed of light, okay? And that's how we get the origin of the speed of light occurs where the momentum is transferred from the electron to you can kind of think of it as a sphere of the virtual particle flux of electron-positron pairs. So I go into a lot of detail on this on my academia.edu website, where I break a lot of this down. Okay, so anyway, getting back to what Tom Bearden was saying, the scalar thing, what was he talking about? Well, I kind of look at it as mass as being a scalar. And so when you plug in this moment of inertia, okay, into this equation, you discover that the moment of inertia divided by 2 over r squared gives you the mass of that electron. And that's your scalar component, okay? So what scalar energy is, it's really the spin, the actual spin of that vortex that creates the electron. It's the spin of that, which is what creates the mass effect, okay? So spin is really the mass of that electron. And so when you follow through with this equation here, you find out that the self-energy of that electron works out to this particular figure here. And that's what I'm calling, that's what I call the Higgs field, is really this vortex, spinning vortex around the electron. And that's what gives its mass, okay? All right, so back around 2005, I consolidated a lot of this material we found in these E groups. And I wrote it all into a paper, and it's out there on my EDU website. And it does show some new discoveries. For example, the Biot-Savart law, which was developed back in the 1830s. Turns out that it has special relativity built into that equation. And I show a breakdown of that in this paper. Okay, so it's 122 pages. It's referenced by over 1,800 other researchers, and you'll find it out there at academia.edu, and it's called Newtonian torsion physics. And so that's what we're getting into here. You know, we want to modify the mass of the electron, and the way that you do it is with our technology. Okay, it's that extra force being applied to that electron, causing it to rotate into these other dimensions where the real mass begins to drop and then manifest as negative energy and negative mass. Okay, so in the paper, you know, I talk about new properties of the electron, which is governed by inverse square laws, the classical solution of quantum tunneling, which is what I derived. That classical solution was also derived by another researcher from Blacklight Power. You know, I discovered that one as well. The Biot-Savart law embodies special relativity, and you can modify the mass of this electron by changing its phase angle of its spin, because gravity is really a mechanical process. And when you look at the charge of the electron, that's describing the electromagnetic properties. So gravity is really a mechanical process related to the spin of this vortex that creates this electron. Okay, so the phase angle changes. We call this torsion, a torsion field effect, and that's what creates the quantum tunneling effect. So we have both mechanical and electromagnetic properties that describe the electron, and that's what we're affecting here, is the torsion that's behind this all. Okay, so we can apply what I call Alek's law, okay, to the various properties of the electron on the left, and that when we apply Alek's law, which is Euler's equation, okay, it really comes down to changing the phase angle of that electron, getting it to rotate into these other dimensions, and that's given by Euler's formula, okay? So you'd apply it to each one of these properties here to see what the, you know, how the mass changes in our universe here, okay? So this slide here, I ran across this paper. I think it was by a Russian researcher. I'm not sure if it was a Russian researcher or not. But you'll find it on academia.edu. And it's very interesting because he blows away the standard model, you know, because all this effort put in by the establishment here to say that the standard model is it, but it's just a theory, you know, it's just a theory. And this particular paper here blows away that theory. The standard model is essentially destroyed when this researcher here analyzed the particles. And he shows that all the particles can be replaced with fast-moving electrons and protons, which are stable fundamental particles. And so this paper here shows exactly how he destroys the standard physics model here, which I thought was very interesting. And so that's my presentation.
Oh, okay, you done it. Right, cool. All right, so thank you so much, Bill.
Can ask questions.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Bill, for a well-illustrated presentation and demonstration. We so well informed by what you are developing, what you know, and the science of it. Thank you so much. And well, the quantum tunneling effects that you were showing, as well as the the inertia of the electron and all that. It's all so good. I actually wanted to pass the microphone over to our co-chair, Fres, but we do see some writings by our next speaker, Jin, on the chat room. I think, Fres, if you would ask Jin when you start off the Q&A session to have a short little discussion with Bill, that would be great. Thank you. There you go. Over to you, Fres, our co-chair, Dr. Fres Fresel.
Unmute.
I'm sorry. We've definitely gone into a lot more technical today, which is fun. We take a look at cancellation of rotation by your demonstration with the two gyroscopes.
Mhm.
And that takes care of basically that torque in that plane. So where it allows you to rotate the object in 3 dimensions without too much problem.
Right.
Is there, yeah, it really works interesting, especially when we get into helicopter, where we've got counter rotating helicopter blades. They have a little more maneuverability too. It was just one of those, it's mechanically hard to do and keep them operating, but they do wonderful things when it comes to maneuverability in the craft. The question that comes to mind really quick when I look at this is you're dealing with basically 2 planes in rotation. By spreading that out into maybe 4 quadrants or 3 quadrants, does that stabilize the platform better, or do we need to, in our minds, rotate those into other planes? So instead of having them in the vertical and then being able to go to 90 degrees with it and more of them. And that's kind of the first thought that, as I was listening to what you were saying, came to mind.
Well, with the gyros, for example, you just have 1 plane.
Right.
And what you would do is you would put 2 other gyros at 90 degrees, okay, to address the other planes. But you see, the Electron does it all at once. It's just, see, what creates the Electron is what I call the, it's a subquantum particle, electromagnetic particle. And it's much smaller than the electron itself. You're dealing with something that's on the Planck scale. And that's your real electromagnetic particle. Okay, it's not really the electron. It's this subquantum Planck scale particle that's your electromagnetic, that's what creates the field effect. And so electrons are nothing more than vortices. And so they're acting on every direction in space because it's, it's a spinning vortex that's spinning something like 26 times the speed of light. And so when the so-called experts looked at that, Heisenberg, Oppenheimer, back in the 1920s, they said, this is crazy. Nothing can spin at 26 times the speed of light. So they took that and they just threw it away. And so they invented quantum mechanics to cover that up. And so they threw away this idea that we're dealing with a vortex that creates this electron, okay? And that the field of this subquantum plenum, when you get to about a little bit over 5 radiuses away from the electron, because what forms around the electron is your flux, your virtual particle flux. And those are electron-positron pairs. They don't annihilate, they're still there. Our 3D space is made up of this virtual particle flux. And we know it exists, but yet they want to say that the stuff just it just vanishes like in and out. And it's crazy. The explanation that they came up with is even crazier than what the actual particle is doing. And so the electron itself is just this vortex, okay, the spinning vortex of this subquantum plenum. And that's what creates the field Mass is not inside of the particle. You can't have any mass inside the particle, because when you run your equations, your inverse square law, your radius, then you're putting something inside that radius, and it's going to collapse in on itself as a singularity. And this explains why there are no singularities in this universe. They can't exist. A singularity cannot exist, because when you look at the equations themselves, you're describing something that's a hollow sphere where the mass of the electron is on the outside of the electron. You can't have any mass inside a fundamental particle. You can't, because it will collapse into a singularity. And we know that isn't true because the equation tells you it isn't so. Okay?
Yeah.
The fundamental equations tell you that there's no singularities. Yet, they tell you, well, all these black holes and all this, they're out there, and they can't exist. Okay, because the equations themselves tell you they cannot exist.
Well,
So,
I'm sorry to say I've got to rush you along a bit, Bill, because time's running out now. We are like half an hour behind, and we've got
okay.
a big crowd here waiting for the second speaker to start. Right?
Okay.
Come then, Fred.
Well, yeah.
I was going to grab in one more question real quick so that it ties everything back in. You saw the diagram that you showed was the quantum tunneling. And
Right.
when we use our oscilloscopes and we start taking a look at a lot of these devices, we have a period of time that goes across it, the run cycle, how much energy you're putting in a pulse at a certain amount of time.
Okay.
And if we go to high frequencies, we get a high voltage, which is saves in the capacitors. But in the other one, we end up with a step up in the sine wave where it actually moves from the zero line. Instead of being a sine wave going positive and negative, you end up with a section above the zero line, and you start your cycle again, very similar to what you were showing in your design. And what happens is we end up being able to harvest energy more efficiently out of that raised area.
Mm-hmm.
And
now, which one are you talking about here?
Basically, we look at several different electronic devices that are supposed to be, more output than in, and
Right.
Over unity. And the one thing that we do see on it, and I'll do a quick sketch draw, is most of the time we were looking at a frequency, 60 cycle, 50 cycle, whatever you want to run at, or 1,000 cycles. It goes
Right.
above and below the positive and negative. Well, we run into a device that actually gives us a little more over unity, and we're talking not much at this point. But what we see on the oscilloscopes is it comes up and the sine wave begins above that. And so you have the amount of time that the energy is being spiked in on the duty cycle, we end up with an area above that. And that's where we see that increase in energy.
Okay.
Usable energy. I don't know if that shows up on it's that space. And so we can cut the duty cycle down. Instead of having it run 90% of the time, we can pulse it into the coils and whatever, and we end up with this on the oscilloscopes, which is really kind of a fun shape. And you get more usable energy out of it when we see that wave show up.
Okay. Okay. See, I recently filed a patent back on December 31st here that I write about what are called, or what Tom Bearden called, a phase conjugate mirror. Okay, a pumped phase conjugate mirror. And that's what happens when you set up opposing flux, in your device, creates this mirror effect. And so, and what I mean by a mirror effect is that when you put in positive energy, you get a reflected wave coming back of negative energy. And when you go and measure that on your device, lo and behold, your devices are only measuring positive energy, but you can see the effect of that negative energy wave that's being reflected back by a decrease in your positive energy. Okay, that ties back into this. Okay, this demo that I was doing, because you're working with negative energy.
Okay.
Okay, so in phase conjugated mirrors, PC mirrors, this effect becomes very apparent when you add a capacitor on your output. Okay, and that gives it a point of resonance, and you tune your system to that point of resonance, and you see your input drop and your output is maximized at this output level. And so your meters are measuring, wait a minute here, there's more power coming out than what's coming in. Okay, yeah. And it's because of this reflected negative energy wave that's coming out of, because of this action, because Tesla was probably the first one to do this in this magnifying transmitter, is to set up this opposing flux action in its coils. Okay, that's your pumped phase conjugated mirror, and that affects the power coming into your system, not the power coming out, because you still have a conventional system here where power comes in, power goes out. You're still working with that, but you have this PCM effect creating this mirrored negative energy, which is adding to the positive energy you're putting in. And so your meters are going to read more power coming out than what's coming in. And it could be huge, like in a Floyd Sweet device worked this way as well. Okay, by setting up this opposing flux action. Thing is, you got to have this capacitor on your output to get the effect to occur. And it has to resonate. You have to set your resonant condition there, okay, where your input will start to drop as you reach that resonant input there. What's coming in, coming out, right? But then when you hit this point of resonance, the input drops, but you're still driving your output. So it looks crazy like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, or you're also rising the power out in the same time.
Yeah, because the system's becoming much more efficient.
Exactly.
When you look at the efficiency calculation, the whole system becomes much more efficient in the operation. And yeah, your output's going to go up.
Yeah.
Okay, because of the efficiency. And this is what I outlined in our provisional patent that I filed back on the 31st. And maybe I can come back on the show and go over that detail of what's in our patent. Okay, to describe how you can use PCMs, okay, to exploit this negative energy component. Okay. And it's really a fascinating thing. I don't know why Bearden gave up on it. When Tom Bearden came out with the Meg device, we were all disappointed because I was expecting something big, okay? Like another Floyd Sweet device. And here it turned out to be almost nothing at all, okay, the Meg device. And it's just like a switch reluctance system, okay? And I was just so disappointed at that point because it's like he completely took PCMs and threw them away. But that's the whole key behind this technology. It's like Tesla used it, Floyd Sweet used it, even Stanley Myers. When you look at the Stanley Myers patent, you use a PCM. There's a PCM in there and a resonator of his water capacitor. Okay, and that forms a resonant system.
Right.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so I I swear, I don't know why Bearden threw that all away. Great.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm going to turn the floor back over to Crystal to wrap this up. And it's been wonderful again. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you.
And you're welcome back.
Yes, anytime you've got something new that you want to talk about, just let me know.
Perhaps the next presentation, I'll talk about PCMs.
Yes,
It's
please.
quite fascinating.
Right. Okay, sometime this few months ahead, you see. Thank you so much, Bill.
Thank
It's
you.
so good to have you with us, indeed. And I think the floor, because we have we have 50 something people here. But I think most of them are also here waiting for Jin Decode to talk about what he needs to talk about in the next session. But I think if there is no impertinent unfinished business, we can move on to the next session, unless you want to put a hand up and ask a quick question to have a quick answer from Bill. Please unmute yourself. Now, one last question. Anyone?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, Jean. Jean is our next speaker. Yeah, Jean has got something to say.
So, Bill, I would invite you to get in contact with Nassim Harriman and look at his work on the in relation to gravity and light and the structure and the parametric volumes below the Planck distance that he's proven, and now in test laboratory results, as well as Dan Winter's work on the implosion of the 3 hydrogen radii that involves creating gravity waves.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, Dan Winter is one of our speakers. Yeah, if you want an introduction, I can do that. But Nassim Harriman hadn't spoken at FESIG yet. If anybody wants to do an introduction, I'll be so delighted. Thank you. Right,
Yeah,
Jin?
I gave Nassim some of my calculations expressing and showing and explaining why the speed of light is constant, because it has to do with the distance from the torsion fields, which is a Mercabic field that's counter-rotating clockwise on top, bottom on bottom, which is the consciousness particle. That's the particle below the substrate of the Planck distance at the gradient structure, the fractal holographic universe structure that is in a gradient scaling. And then additionally, the gravity is actually the return of light back to the consciousness particle gradient field at 64 times the speed of light. And I gave them the physics and differential equations for that. And we talked about that for a few hours. That we came up with some really good information regarding that. So it'd be really great if Bill could get in contact with Nassim, or somebody could, he's done a lot of work, and he's actually creating crystalline lattice structures tapping into the quantum vacuum 0-point energy at the due to those effects.
Wow. Jin has got so much of the knowledge of the science and the technology as well. It is so good to hear all of you, some of the best brilliant minds in the world speaking here at this platform. I really am so honored to have all of you speak. Thank you again, Bill. As we move to the next session now, and one last call. Anybody else who wants to unmute yourself if there's any very urgent question that needs to be answered very briefly before we move on to the next session? Going, gone. Okay, that's it. Right. Is there any last day, Pontus, that you want to bring up?
No.
Okay. And press?
This has been excellent again, and I want to thank our guest today. And Crystal, it's back to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Press, thank you for bringing up some of the best questions. And we love you. We love all of you here. Thank you for taking time off to be with us, even though it's a very important day. Most of you would be tuning in to the march in Washington for Trump. Well, we say our prayers that all will go well. Namaste. There being no other business now, this first session of the 84th FESIG meeting is now adjourned to the second session where Jean Decode speaks. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. Stop recording.
Okay, if we